Greetings, Inland Empire. This is the latest edition of Political Empire, and I'm your host, Kim Pierceall, with the Press Enterprise newspaper. Before we get into our episode today, which is going to be primarily about the Riverside mayoral race, we're going to talk about a few headlines from the past week in political news. First off, Menifee is going to be hosting its very first mayoral race. So far, they've had a council that's been elected by the city, and then that council chooses a mayor. But this is going to be the first year in which the entire city can vote for their choice for mayor. So far, there's one candidate, Darcy Kenzie, who's a sitting councilwoman. We'll keep you posted on all the latest there. And secondly, San Bernardino County may be the first county to outsource its ethical watchdogging. The county has certainly not been lacking for alleged corruption that's been occurring there, and they have proposed hiring the California Fair Political Practices Commission to essentially watch them, to be their watchdogs. First, though, state legislation will need to be passed, and that is pending and needs to be passed by April 27th. So we'll keep you posted on that news as well. We'll be back with Alicia Robinson in studio, our Riverside reporter, who is going to be talking to us all about the Riverside mayor's race. We're back, and Alicia Robinson, our Riverside reporter, is here to talk about the Riverside mayoral debate. And we're going to be spending quite a bit of this episode talking about the Riverside mayor's race, as well as the upcoming debate that's going to be happening at Cal Baptist on April 26th. Alicia, thanks so much for joining us in studio today.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
No problem. We are going to get right to it and talk about the many, many candidates, because this is somewhat of a seminal event. Mayor Ron Loveridge no longer going to be mayor, so there are total seven people running for Riverside mayor. So I've got a handy-dandy list of note cards because there are so many. So first off, and we're going to go based on the names that are listed on the ballot. So it's not alphabetical, it's what people are going to see when they're going to go to the ballot booth and vote. So let's talk about Ed Atkinson.
Ed Atkinson is a former councilman. He served on the council from about 2000 to 2007, and he currently runs a civil engineering firm here in town.
Okay, and the name of that firm is Adcan Engineering, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Nice. And Mike Gardner. Mike Gardner has a familiar name, certainly, and there's a few others who have a familiar name that are going to pop up.
Right. Gardner just was elected last June to his second term on the council. He represents Ward 1, so a lot of the big issues in the city go on because that includes the downtown area. And a few of the things he's worked on recently are trying to get Texaskeet Park built and also helping establish a pet kennel at the city's homeless shelter.
And he's pretty easy to spot downtown because he's usually the guy on the Segway, right?
That's right.
And Andy Melendra is another familiar name.
That's right. Andy represents Ward 2, and he is wrapping up his second term on the council. Some of his efforts have included trying to get University Avenue fixed up, and then also right now he's working on establishing a music school in his ward. Nice.
And Aurora Chavez.
Aurora is a political newcomer. She has not run for office before. She's a retired school accounts clerk, and she's also a community volunteer who helps out at places like the Janet Goski Senior Center.
And Rusty Bailey, another familiar name.
That's right. Rusty represents Ward 3 on the council. He's a teacher at Riverside's Poly High School, and he, just like Gardner, was elected to a second term back in June.
So tell me about Peter Benavidez.
Yeah, he is the CEO of a nonprofit that provides services to blind and vision impaired people, and he also recently served on the city's Charter Review Commission.
Nice. And finally, we'll wrap it up with Devon Petrozello.
Yeah, Devon is a teacher of at-risk students. She's also kind of a familiar face at the council meetings because not only did she run for the Ward 1 seat last year, but she has been coming down to the council and raising a lot of questions about the city finances recently.
Well, thanks for telling us about all of the candidates, kind of a primer on who they are and where they're from and what they've been doing. We're going to get back to them in a bit, but first, you had the opportunity to talk to Ron Loveridge. You brought him into the studio and talked to him about what it's like to be mayor of Riverside, essentially, what the role of the mayor should be. And what did he think the role of the mayor should be?
Well, I guess two ways of talking about it. One, it seems to me the role of the mayor is to sort of paint the picture of the good city and the aspirations of the people who live here and the city's future. But more specifically, I think a mayor needs to come up first with the kind of policy vision, policy agenda. Second, the mayor needs to see the office as one that facilitates, that brings people together. And third, the mayor is sort of the ambassador of the city. You take the Riverside story to groups in City Hall, outside of City Hall, outside the city, and it's an important role in looking for resources and support.
See, this is going to be really interesting because he is one of the longest-serving city officials in the history of Riverside. Not only is he completing his 5th term as mayor, he's served on the council for 4 terms before that. So it's about 32 years that he's been in public office. He's also a professor of political science over at UC Riverside. That's been kind of his day job before he took office. And so he brings a very academic approach. He's read a lot about how mayors can be effective, especially in a city like Riverside where the mayor is directly elected and it's a full-time job, but he's not the city's chief executive as you have in a larger city like Los Angeles.
Well, and curious about that because he brought up the fact that mayors should have that right to vote in council meetings and so forth. And talk to me a little bit about that. Why is that important for the mayor to have that voting power?
I recommended a couple things. One, I think the mayor should vote. The mayor should be accountable. They should vote as other councilmen should do. In most cities, the mayor votes. It's an exception where the mayor does not. So one, I think the mayor should vote.
Well, the way the city charter is written right now, the mayor does not get a vote unless there's a tie on the council, and he can vote to break a tie. The mayor also has the power of veto, although Ron Loveridge has never used that power. He's only threatened it a few times. But I think the mayor feels like he should be more of a legislator than, now not having that power to vote. It's sort of all he has is the bully pulpit to kind of set the agenda and raise issues, but he has a little bit less influence on the outcome when they decide things.
And he's had quite the legacy. How did he essentially sum up his legacy as mayor of Riverside? Did he enjoy it? It sounds like he enjoyed it.
So it's been an incredible honor to be mayor. Every day is different. You meet an incredible variety of people. You have opportunities to make a difference, and so you wish Godspeed. But if you ask the question of what makes a good city, it is very difficult to find a good city that doesn't have a good mayor. I think if you look for leadership in a city, the mayor has to be a primary source for that.
I think he has. He really has enjoyed it a lot, and actually I think he would have been interested potentially in serving in some sort of other political office, but he said that his wife kind of vetoed that.
So tell me a little bit about what each candidate feels is the role of the mayor. Since Mayor Ron Loveridge has his perspective, what do all these folks think?
Well, now I did talk to all of them at pretty great length, actually, about this, and they had some overlap between their views of what is the most important for the mayor to be doing, but they also kind of all had their own little twist on it. Ed Adkisson has kind of said that he would take more of an active role in scrutinizing and even possibly controlling the city's spending, which he seems to think has gotten a little bit out of hand. Devon Petrozzillo, one of her big emphases is ethics, which she thinks have been lacking in the current city administration. So she feels like she would bring that back to the office of mayor if she were elected. Mike Gardner has kind of a similar view to Mayor Loveridge in terms of the mayor being able to build a coalition and to get people behind ideas. But he said that he would be a little bit more decision and action oriented as opposed to Loveridge's a little bit more academic approach that sometimes involves doing studies about things before sort of moving forward. I think Rusty Bailey is really looking to kind of take on the mantle of Ron Loveridge. He said he's comfortable in that consensus building role, which is kind of how the mayor describes, his job. But Rusty also would infuse the job with sort of his, youth and a new sort of vigor. He is one of the youngest of the candidates. And then Andy Melendrez, he agreed that he sees the mayor's role as something of an ambassador, and especially in terms of reaching out to try to attract businesses and jobs to the community. Peter Benavides, one of the points he made was that he would like to try to restore trust in city government that he feels has kind of been eroded, and he might run the council meetings in a little bit different way to kind of encourage more public participation. And then Aurora Chavez had a similar take to Peter Benavides in terms of she said that she feels like residents need more time to kind of digest and comment on things before the council just turns around and votes on them so that they can have input.
Nice. And as far as who's gaining the most momentum so far, it sounds like there's at least one candidate who's leading as far as endorsements, for sure. And talk a little bit about who that might be.
That's right. It's kind of interesting when you look at the candidates' websites. Ed Adkisson has by far the heftiest list of endorsements on his site. I printed it out today. It's about 21 pages. And the only other candidate that even comes close is Rusty Bailey. His is only 4 pages printed out. And I actually noticed something interesting when I was looking at both of their lists. They both have listed Riverside County Supervisor John Tavallone as having endorsed them. I have a call into Tavallone to find out, did he endorse both of them? Was it only one of them? And what's going on with that?
And it's hard to miss too, because yeah, it's the third one listed on one, and then it's the fifth one down on the other one.
Right,
so yeah,
right.
Pretty high up.
But also on Ed's list, he lists 3 of the remaining 4 supervisors. The exception is Bob Buster, who I don't know whether he's endorsed. I haven't seen him on anybody's list. Ed also has endorsements from a number of former council members. The current councilman, Chris MacArthur, has endorsed Ed according to his list. And he's got a really long list of a lot of public officials. He has elected officials from other cities. I'm not sure how much weight that carries in a Riverside-specific election, but and then he also has far and away raised more money than any of the other candidates. He started the earliest, and he has been spending his money too. So again, it's always sort of debatable how much the endorsements matter, but if you were looking strictly on that, he would be in the lead.
And the money comes in handy too, so it sounds like he is raising quite a bit. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and all the insight. And there will be plenty more insight at all of the candidate forums and especially the Cal Baptist debate, in particular the 2012 Raincross debate being held at Cal Baptist that we're going to be showing live on PE.com. We're also going to have a post-debate show in which Alicia and also some other folks are going to be talking about how the candidates fared and what the issues are in this race. So for all of your Riverside mayoral race information, news, and needs, always visit PE.com, and we'll see you on April 26th at the Cal Baptist 2012 Raincross debate.